Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and a happy International Women's Day to you. It's a day to celebrate the achievements of women and recognize the progress still needed toward equality. We're asking you, what does being a feminist mean to you? Is there someone who's an example for you? And where's the work that still needs to be done? After 12:30, a celebration of another kind of movies. What's your favorite Oscar-winning film ever? I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Thank you for joining us on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television, and live streaming on the CBC News app, cbc.ca/BC, and on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. And yes, a happy International Women's Day to all of you. It's a global event to celebrate the achievements of women, also a day where many demand equal rights for women across the globe. Here in BC, as you hear, often there's still much work to be done, whether it's access to childcare or ensuring a safe workspace for equity-seeking groups. We want to hear from you. What does being a feminist mean to you right now? Is there someone who's an example for you? And where do you think is the work that still needs to be done? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone as well. You can email bctoday@cbc.ca. I have two guests joining me for this conversation. Tia Caccione is an associate professor in gender studies at the University of Victoria, and Angela Marie McDougall is executive director at the Battered Women's Support Services. Hello to both of you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you as well. Tia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Happy International Women's Day.
Why, thank you.
And to you as well in Victoria, Tia.
Thank you to you as well.
No, what does this day mean to you, Angela?
Yeah, it's a really important opportunity, I think, for us to take a look at where we are, where we've come from, and also where we want to go in the sense of advancing equity and equality from an intersectional understanding and the way in which gender interfaces with other forms of inequities. And so that's what I think about today, and thinking of all the work that has been done to get us to this moment.
And what are you reflecting on, Tia?
Yeah, similarly, I'm reflecting on I'm kind of unpacking the term woman and thinking about how women as a group are really in so many different kinds of positions of power and privilege. And I think that we can look to Canada to think about, which women are experiencing marginalization in this country. Certainly Indigenous women, racialized women, women living below the poverty line. As much as we can talk about other kinds of issues of workplace safety and other kinds of things, I'm really thinking about how much work there is to be done for women who are most on the margins.
Who needs to be more represented?
Well, most definitely, I think I agree with Tia in that, in looking at that the way in which systemic inequity means that the experience of being a woman is not universal. And so when we're thinking about Women's Day, I have to think about how we can ensure that we are addressing those systemic barriers that are really created through the making of Canada as a nation and created inequities. And this is what we seek to disrupt. And for us, because we're doing work around ending gender-based violence, and we know that violence continues unabated. And a lot of that has to do with the kind of entrapment that happens as a result of systemic barriers. And so we have a housing crisis, for example. And we know that housing as well as employment inequity are two reasons that entrap victims in relationships, but also prevent making reports. So we have a lot of work to do. And so today is a chance to recognize that, but also to celebrate where we are.
We'll celebrate where we are as well. And I'll ask you all about that too. We're asking you on the open line, what does being a feminist mean to you? Is there someone who is an example for you? And where do you think is the work that still needs to be done? We've heard some examples just now. You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. My guests are Angela Marie McDougall, the Executive Director at Battered Women Support Services, and Tia Caccioni is Associate Professor in Gender Studies at UVic. Let's go to the phones now. Kelly is joining us from Armstrong. Happy International Women's Day to you, Kelly.
Thank you. It's a wonderful day for women. I'm reading one of a book written by Sally. Oh, I can't remember her last name. She was in the Massey Lectures with Power Shift about women. And it just got me thinking. And as the mother of a daughter and the daughter of a single mother, I really feel it's important for us to raise our girls with a healthy, strong self-esteem so that they can be confident, and when they go into the workplace or school or wherever they're going, that they feel they're able to speak up for themselves and put their best foot forward to say, you know, hey, I'm here and I'm equal. So, and I'm not going to put up with, I can support myself. I don't have to be involved in a situation of potential domestic violence because I feel better about myself than that.
Why is it so important to you to have that conversation with your daughter?
Well, we've had that conversation. She's growing up now.
Yeah.
And it was important to me. My mom was a single mom when we were the only kids on the block that were single parented. And there was a lot stacked against her. It was very difficult. And that was why it was important for me to instill. I watched my mom work really hard. I worked hard because I didn't have an extra parental figure in there. And so it was really important that my daughter would be able to always stand on her own 2 feet and support herself no matter what the situation was, that she could be confident.
Kelly, thank you very much. The journalist is Sally Armstrong, and the book is Power Shift, The Longest Revolution.
Yes, thank you. It's a wonderful book, and I'm really enjoying it.
Good to be inspired by what we see around us, right? Lectures and books and all of that. Great to speak with you. Thank you so much. That's Kelly joining us from Armstrong. Yes, I'd love to ask you both that too. You know, what should parents who are raising daughters and sons and non-binary children, what should they be teaching their kids about feminism? Taya.
First of all, I just want to say hats off to single mothers and single parents generally, but we know that women are likely to be earning less money than men. And I think that we haven't quite figured out the capitalist workplace, which is really based on a sexual division of labor. But when women work, we still need childcare. We still need lots of support that was traditionally unpaid work. On the note of, I have a 8-year-old daughter. She turned 8 2 days ago. And I think that, you know, I think that we see that there are some feminist parenting methods and, you know, people have tried various strategies. I do find it interesting that sometimes we equate feminism or feminist with masculine. I think that there is room for kind of also celebrating feminine kinds of ways of being, I think, for whatever gender you are. And I also think that, you know, the extreme of masculinity and the extreme of femininity can both be very toxic. So we have to kind of think about what can we take that's positive about that socialization into femininity and we take that's positive about that socialization into masculinity.
It sounds like you're saying don't be so tied to expectations that may push you toward the extreme of either side. What about you, Angela?
Yeah, I really appreciate the caller, Kelly, sharing about how she's raising her child, and also for you as well, Tia. And happy birthday to your
That's
daughter.
right.
It's so awesome. And, you know, as we're thinking about ourselves as individuals and what feminism means, and one of the beautiful things about feminism is that it really does take into consideration power and dynamics of power and kind of understanding power differentials. And that's been such a gift, I think, for us to understand how our society works and what kinds of things contribute to inequity, again, and how we're stratified along race lines and class lines. And so that's one of the gifts of feminism, is that kind of critique, if you will, of society, and also a vision for how we can, bring more equity to our social relationships. And I think that we start, of course, with ourselves and in our families and with our children, but it ends up being a much larger thing because we're in a context, we're in an employment context, we're in a society, and those are the things, of course, that for any of us that are doing kind of organizing work, we want to work to help shape a society that brings more equity across the board for everyone.
Yeah. You work with a lot of families, and do you see a kind of way of having that discussion? Of course, there's a lot of stresses that they must be facing, but at the same time, because they are affected by those inequities, where might there be room for that discussion for families that are under stress?
Well, I always go from the point of view of that we can't do it alone. You know, we have to do it in community, and that as we're a social species, and and I think there's so much of the way that our world works is to really isolate us, and behind the picket fence, if you will, in our homes, and so this is I think about this day, International Women's Day, as we're connecting across the globe on this day, thinking about women, is how we can continue to strengthen our connections to community. And this idea of us being advocates and support for each other is, I think, really important as we're addressing these social challenges.
Yeah. Okay. That's a very important question for myself, raising a son and a daughter as well. Certainly a conversation we have in our household. Let's take another call here. Our numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Chapman is joining us from Surrey. Hi, Chapman. Welcome.
Oh, hi. How are you?
I am very well. Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you very much. What did you want to say?
I wanted to say that I was one of the lucky few, first few men to actually be trained to be more than a bystander for women in the trades. I work as an electrician, and I've had lots of female apprentices. And I also am raising 3 daughters with my wife. So, it's just something that, the first being the first cohort, I was in a room with 27 other gentlemen who've been in the trade. And, there was not a single man that wasn't committed to changing or kind of shifting this needle.
You were the first cohort.
Yes.
And when was this, Chapman?
This was in January 2019.
Okay.
So the EVA BC, so the Ending Violence Association of BC, has partnered with the BC Lions. I guess about in 2011, I think it was. And so when this program came about for the trades, I thought, hey, there's a lot of work to be done in the construction industry, and so whether it be in getting more women in the trades is definitely one of the greatest things, and I have great mentors that help me get through to that. So
it's interesting, Chapman. We had this discussion yesterday on the program about women in the trades, and we had the apprenticeship forum on our show yesterday, and the chairperson referred to the Be More Than a Bystander program and the need for more women in the trades. Why is it so important for you to be part of this this shift in culture?
It's really quite important to me. I'm a visible minority as well, being of ethnic background, and I've experienced bullying and things like that in all of my life, whether it be in the trades or not. And I have a university education. I have a degree, and then I also have my trades. And as I'm raising girls, I want them to be able to feel comfortable, changing tires, whatever it is, mechanically inclined or not. They just have life skills, and want them to be able to, help me with renovations and things like that. So, I want these sort of gender stereotypes to kind of go away. And the only way to do that is actually be part of the solution. And so, yeah, I'm very fortunate to be part of this first cohort. I know we have over 100 men that have been trained, and now we're training men and women in this field as well. So it's really dynamic, and it's really growing.
Great to hear from you. Great to hear from you, Chapman. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care. Angela, yes, I can hear you nodding and reacting to that.
Well, and I have some history with Be More Than a Bystander initiative and where it came from, which is through a man named Jackson Katz. He's a U.S.-based educator. And what's really great about what Jackson Katz talks about, as well as other men that have recognized that they play a role in addressing gender inequity, but also looking at, as the caller talked about, other forms of oppression that exists. So the role of men is really important, and this is a really another day as we're celebrating and recognizing women, and then thinking about where we need to go. It's also an opportunity for us to see and to recognize the role that men have. And so Chapman, of course, speaks to that, and I can hear a real sense of accomplishment and maybe satisfaction, and and himself taking leadership in that way, which I think is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and given he's thinking about the women in his life as well. What did you take from that, Chia? And the role that men play, the role that everybody plays in all of this.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Angela. I think that we can't change the world without men, and all people really have to be allies to each other. So we won't dismantle any patriarchal structures without involving men, and it should be a positive experience as well. Who wouldn't want a more fair and equal society? On the note of the trades programs, I think that's excellent as well. A young woman in my life has decided to become an electrician straight out of grade 12, and I think about the type of jobs that men traditionally, or boys and men traditionally, went into straight out of high school, and they tend to be more unionized, they tend to offer more full benefits, and the kind of equivalent work that women were, encouraged to take up had a lot more job precarity. So I think it's really important to think about these structures.
We are taking your calls on this International Women's Day. What does being a feminist mean to you? Do you think of someone who's an example for you? And where else is the work that needs to be done? I'd love to hear from you on the open line. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Eleanor is joining us now from Vancouver. And do you have a role model, Eleanor, when you think about feminism?
I sure do. It's Angela McDougall. She's such an amazing, powerful woman. She's a beautiful soul. When she speaks, she hits to the heart of the matter, and she's one of the smartest feminists I know. I know her through the Women's Monument Committee, and those are my other heroes, Chris McDowell, Mo Simpson, locally, Leanne Payne. We've worked together on the Women's Monument for over 20 years, and, 25, 30. And to me, I think being a feminist means being active, trying to create a world that is more equal for women, and never mind equal, safer. Like, it would be great if women were safe. Would be really great.
Angela.
Wow. Hey, Eleanor, so nice to hear from you. And thank you for that lovely acknowledgement. And of course, the work of the Women's Monument Committee has been so vital in recognizing, which came to be as a result of the killing in Polytechnique, L'École Polytechnique in Montreal in 1989. And I think that organizing of women going back, several decades now. The Women's Monument Committee has been vital in leading the way and recognizing in systemic inequities, but, violence. And we're in a time right now where we have to take into consideration the public expressions of violence does feel like it could, it's sort of out there and it's always something that women are dealing with. So the idea of safety and what it means to be safe, I think, is a really important consideration for us on International Women's Day.
She did mention that, absolutely. Eleanor, and what a celebration, right? To lift up the women that you work with as well and whom you admire. So thank you very much for that call. David is up next at Kitsilano in Vancouver. Hello, David.
Well, hi. It's a great day. Yeah, all around. So, as I told I'm assuming your producer coming into this, I grew up in ranch country in southern Alberta, always wanted to be a welder, a pipeline welder, and turned into that. And I hung out with a bunch of really hard guys from the time I was 15 years old and up, I guess. I was working on a claim at one time, and I was about as misogynist as you can get. And I was standing beside a fella on the pipeline, and we had a helper that, like first aid attendant and food and stuff like that, and there was a woman. And she was in listing distance. And I've got to say, at that time, to even think of the word feminist, you were considered, in my group of people, a wuss, or somebody less than masculine and manly and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that some of your listeners will recognize that part of, and it's still going on.
Yeah, and so what changed for you, David?
So what happened was this fella said, I started talking about feminism and the imbalance and stuff like that, and he said, listen, the way to get laid is become a feminist. And the lady that
my goodness.
Yeah, I know. The way to get laid was be a feminist. And the lady that was the woman. Oh, hello?
Hi there. And David, what changed your mind? I want to ask you, what changed you? What changed for you?
The woman that was there came over, and she was part Indigenous, and she just ripped a slice off of both of us. And then called me over later and talked to me about that. And that's about the time I started dating women that let me know what's the reality of things.
And you learned.
And I ended up marrying a great one.
David.
And I got two daughters too that are just great.
Thank you so much. What a turn in perspective. Thank you very much for that, David and Kitsilano. We're going to continue our conversation here in a couple of moments with Tia Caccioni and Angela Marie McDougall. It's 12:28, 1:28 in the Mountain Time Zone. This is BC Today. And a little note for you on the weather. The BC River Forecast Center head Dave Campbell announced this morning that the current snowpack levels are at historic lows. And BC's March 1st snowpack is at 66%, or the second lowest in more than 20 years. That may mean drought and an early start to the fire season.
Yeah, we've seen even just that implication over maybe the last 10 days or so. That we've transitioned into that cooler, wetter pattern. So a lot of the snow has sort of almost been a rebuilding of the snow over this sort of latter part of February. We were looking at just the trend through the early part of the month in February and really seeing not a lot of accumulation. It was very dry. And so a lot of the boost that we're seeing, and particularly that change in snowpack from February 1st, so a place like the South Coast, it's been fairly similar, but in other areas, we did see that jump came up. So provincial wide, we were looking at probably about 55% of normal 10 days ago, and that's really bumped up to the 66% that we see now, and that's really been the result of storms. And we're continuing to be in the stormy pattern, so we know that we're expecting to see continued snow accumulation, particularly over this next week, and particularly for the South and West Coast areas. So So the comments that we do make around, we still have a little bit of time left in the season, so we're not through the entire accumulation season yet. There's still some time that, particularly at like kind of a regional basis, that we can see both upswings or declines in snowpack over the coming month to month and a half.
Dave Campbell is with the BC River Forecast Centre. This is BC Today here on CBC, on radio, television, and live streaming as well. Thanks so much for joining us. And it is International Women's Day. We're going to wrap up with our guests now let's talk about what to celebrate. And let's end on that high note. Angela, you've hinted at it a couple of times. What do you want to celebrate today?
Well, I want to celebrate an incredible settlement that West Coast Leaf and the Center for Families, formerly the Single Mothers Alliance.
Yes. With Vivica Ellis, yes.
Yes, indeed. They had a wonderful settlement where they actually sued the provincial government around legal aid and the cutting of legal aid for family law cases, and they were successful on February 15th, and so we continue to recognize that there's amazing organizations that are led by women, as well as women that are dealing with social issues and taking action. So I want to celebrate the incredible advocates and organizers and mothers and sisters and leaders that we see that are taking action every day to advance gender equity.
You have a big smile on your face as you,
it
as you
feels
talk
good
about that.
to know that we continue to do this work.
And what about for you, Taya? What would you like to celebrate today?
I'd like to celebrate the feminists that came before me that started the work of organizing and creating change, whether it be in the law or in other areas of the private sphere. But I really also want to celebrate my students. I'm a gender studies professor, and I see how young people are challenging the gender binary. They're challenging so many important kinds of day-to-day forms of misogyny, as David mentioned, that we still see in our world. And I do really have a lot of faith in this generation that I'm teaching at the undergraduate level, who are kind of refusing to take part in some of the more toxic gender practices that were still common in my generation.
So great to speak with you both today.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Tia.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela.
Very happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you.
That is Tia Caccioni, Associate Professor in Gender Studies at the University of Victoria, and Angela Marie McDougall, Executive Director at Battered Women's Support Services. It is 12:33, 1:33 in the Mountain Time Zone. You're with BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for joining us. And coming up in our next half hour, we will talk about the movies. We can't go to the movies right now, but we'll talk about your favorites this year and in past years as well. This as we head towards Oscar weekend. Right now, it's time for a CBC News Update with Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. Statistics Canada says the economy added 41,000 jobs across the country last month, faring much better than most economists expected. The unemployment rate was up slightly to 5.8% because job gains are still lagging behind strong population growth. Here in BC, the unemployment rate dropped 0.2 of a point in February. The Port of Vancouver says this could be a record-breaking year for the cruise ship season. The first vessel of the year is due to arrive at Canada Place on Monday, the first of 329 scheduled arrivals. That could add up to an estimated 1.27 million passengers, or about 2% more than last year's record number. And as we've been hearing on the show, the River Forecast Centre says even with recent snow and rain, the snowpack is near record low levels. Levels are now 66% of average for this time of year. Forecasters say that will help limit possible flooding, but will increase the likelihood of ongoing drought. And now taking a look at the forecast, the rainfall warning continues for northern and western sections of Vancouver Island. On the north coast, a chance of showers with a high of 5, highs reaching 7 with some sunshine this afternoon in the Peace. In the central interior, mainly cloudy with a high of 6, highs to 6 and cloudy in the West Kootenay, mainly sunny in the East Kootenay. In the southern interior, cloudy with a high of 7. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, rain this afternoon with highs around 8 degrees. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Rob, thank you very much.
You are welcome, Michelle.
You know, we had Justin McElroy here on the show the other day.
Yes.
And I guess that would be the last time for a while.
Yesterday was his last day. He's heading out for a year. Our
eminent municipal affairs reporter, Justin McElroy, he's such a great reporter. He is off on this global trip. He's been planning it for a long time, traveling to... dozens of cities, dozens of towns and cities?
52 places over 52 weeks, and he's traveling by train mostly.
As much as possible, yes.
Pretty exciting.
It is really exciting. And
pretty gutsy. To do that in the, he's mid-30s or, right? That takes guts.
You get comfortable, I guess,
sure.
in your mid-30s.
Yeah, look how comfortable I am. Yeah.
Oh, because you're in your mid-30s, are you?
A little past that. Yeah.
Same here.
Based on my hairline, yes, a little past that, Michelle.
I am well past comfortable, if that's how we're measuring things. Maybe we can plan a trip because I just envy that, right? I can live vicariously through Justin.
Super exciting.
Oh, yeah, it's very exciting. So we wish him well.
We do.
I told him don't post anything.
Don't post anything. He's going to be posting constantly.
I hope he does, but I want him to actually get a break.
He did say that he's going to work out being on social media less, obviously. But obviously he's going to do some
If there's Wi-Fi on the train, he will be on it.
Probably.
Rob, thank you so much.
Sure.
That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Well, it is Oscar weekend. The Academy Awards are this Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And some of the movies that made a buzz this year, of course, Maestro, Killers of the Flower Moon, Past Lives, Barbie, Oppenheimer, just some of the movies nominated for Best Picture this year. We're going to get into some more of those nominations, but also we're asking you, did you get out to a theater this past year? Some of it was kind of an event, wasn't it? And we're asking you, what is your favorite Oscar-winning movie of all time? Not just this year. You can dig into the recesses of your mind and think, what was my favorite Oscar-winning movie? Love to hear from you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. And my guests for this half hour are Rachel Fox, senior programmer at the Rio Theatre, here in studio with me. And Jorge Castillo is chair of the Vancouver Film Critics Circle and joins us by Zoom. Hello to both of you.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
Happy Oscar weekend. I know I don't have a red carpet worthy outfit, but we're here in Vancouver safely. Is it a big deal for you, Rachel?
The Oscars?
Yeah.
I think so. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I'm around movies enough.
You sure are.
As part of my, professional life.
Yeah.
And I happen to see a lot of movies by virtue of the place I work at, I work in a movie theater. So it is a big deal. I think, I'm often surrounded by movie lovers, and I think there's a real collective excitement about who's going to win and who's nominated, and it feels very tribal, but in a healthy way.
It's a healthy obsession. What about for you, Jorge? Do you get into Oscar season?
Oh, absolutely. It's an event here, let's say, at my house.
Is it? What do you do?
Oh, just order. I mean, nothing special. When I was living in Vancouver, you may find me at the Rio, actually. But But if not, just order food and try to keep the noise to a minimum so I can actually
Try
enjoy
to
it.
keep the noise to a minimum. I love that.
Yeah, I think to me, like Oscar Day is sort of what it feels like for people that watch group sports. That's how I feel about it.
That's 100%.
I'm not a
Super
sports
Bowl.
person, but I feel like it's Super Bowl for movie people.
It's your Super Bowl.
It is.
Exactly right. I feel the same way. Our noise level goes up pretty high as well. I have to say, I have a son who's really into movies and can quote everything and can name all the actors and directors. So we do nerd out a little bit too. We're going to ask our audience to join us as well, asking you, did you get out to the theater this year? Was there something you really wanted to see? And what is your favorite Oscar-winning movie of all time? Do you look to the Oscars for movie recommendations? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. By email, bctoday@cbc.ca. I do know, after watching the Golden Globes and Beef kind of took everything, I watched Beef afterwards and I loved it so much. I couldn't stop talking about it for days and days and days. So when it comes to the Oscars, what weight do people put on the nominees?
I think there's a lot of weight. I mean, I think there's just fandom in general, like if you're a fan of somebody who's been nominated a lot and they're going to get nominated this year, you feel an emotional investment there. So there's that sort of personal connection.
More this year than others.
I think so too. There's a lot of really great and worthy nominees. I feel like, it was a strong year for movies in general and some really great performances. So that really ups the excitement ante.
That's so true. And what about for you? Is there something extra about this year?
I think it's interesting that this year, unlike the most recent years, there are two big nominees that have actually brought a lot of people to the theaters. Barbie and Oppenheimer, they made hundreds of millions of dollars. And that actually adds to the excitement because these are movies that people have seen. These are movies that people are emotionally invested in.
Yes.
In their success, right?
Yeah.
So that certainly adds to the experience.
I think, in terms of Barbie anyway, it's almost self-defining, wasn't it? It's sort of like, this is how I define myself. I'm going to go see this movie. It's really so much more than a movie to me.
I think so too. I mean, that was really a cultural moment for the year.
That's a good way to describe it.
Both of those films. But I think that it's even broader than just those two. I mean, I happened to see Poor Things, which has a lot of nominations this year. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to feel about it. I love really all of the director's other films. And I was more impressed and more compelled and enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to, knowing nothing about it. And to think that somebody like that, like Yorgos Lanthimos, Greek director, really someone who's embraced the absurd and strange in his films, to see this is his highest grossing, I think, biggest box office film of all time and that he's done. And it's really sweeping the Oscars and people are going out to see it and embracing this really strange, indie, bizarre film. Like that to me is like, oh, maybe we're kind of getting back into our groove.
We're opening up to wonder.
Yes.
I love that. Go ahead, Jorge.
Oh no, I just had a similar experience, but my experience was with Anatomy of a Fall, in parallel with what Rachel was saying. Anatomy of a Fall is a movie that took me completely by surprise, even though it won Cannes, so how much of a surprise it is. But it's a level of, it's so smart and just original in terms of the subject. Like, I was just discussing about how little do we, does anybody know anything about the Swiss justice system? I had no idea how it operates. And this whole movie revolves around it, about the fact, I don't know, it caught me by surprise, and I'm sorry to be so detailed about it.
But yeah, you do learn something,
Yeah, exactly. They have a person assigned to live with the witness for the length of the trial, so the witness is not tampered. That's crazy. And that's what is fascinating to me.
I have to say, I was invited to go watch Anatomy of the Fall a couple of weeks ago, and the tickets were sold out. I was not able to get in. It's that popular. Let's take a call now. We're asking you if you got out to the movies this year, what brought you out, and what is your favorite Oscar-winning movie ever. Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Catherine is joining us from North Vancouver. Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. I really like the movie Coda.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's heard of that.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Go
won
ahead.
the Oscar 2 years ago.
Yes,
Yeah,
won the
really
Oscar
liked it,
2
and
years ago.
From your topic, I just started to do a quick search of, different movies, and that came up. And so it's interesting because it broke a bunch of Oscar rules. It was because it came from Apple, and it didn't get a director nomination. But I really liked it because it's for people who don't know, it's children of deaf adults. And so because of the daughter, and she's the hearing daughter, and the adults have no idea that she loves, her parents don't understand why she likes music, so. And then they support her, so it's a really good movie.
It is a wonderful movie. It was really emotional as well. I remember when the actor went up on stage, and it was really quite an emotional moment when Coda won. Catherine, thank you so much. I'm glad you went over and Googled movies while you were listening. Did you?
I did. Yeah.
I love that.
My memory. Yeah.
Do you watch? Are you going to watch the Oscars?
I'll probably tune in after.
Yeah.
But I made a point of watching Oppenheimer because I know it's been nominated.
There you go. I know. I'm in the middle of watching it right now.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a process. Catherine, thank you so much.
Thank you.
But a really compelling one, though. Coda. Yeah. I mean, that really was quite a moment as well. Go ahead, Jorge.
Oh, Coda! I was surprised because it was a small movie, comparatively speaking, and it did extremely well. Just to that point, it is very rare that the director is not nominated. Normally, movies that don't get a director nominated don't win. So that's another surprising factor that made Coda's win special.
And representative as well. Yeah, people in the deaf community. I know I have a friend in that community who, when we were emailing each other and texting, this is tears were coming to her face. What about for you?
What my favorite was?
What do you think of Coda? Let's maybe just respond.
Yeah, I mean, I think Coda is sort of an anomaly for all of those reasons, but especially because it really did sort of emerge as a streaming film. So I think it's probably a little more limited in terms of how people accessed it, which is very different than this year, which I feel like all of the movies really people have had a good chance to see in a theater, which as somebody that works in a movie theater is exciting to me because it means that, people are going back and, seeing something like an Oppenheimer on the big screen and really taking in the director's vision and intent.
Yeah, that really, and when you watch Oppenheimer, it really is, you see his vision, right?
Right.
Nolan's vision as you're watching it. I am watching it on the small screen.
We'll let it pass.
Yeah, exactly.
Pass, Michelle.
I'll get myself to the Rio sometime. Janet is on the line now from Langley. Ooh, we're going to go back, are we, Janet? A deep cut.
We are going to go back, and thank you. My absolute favorite is Dr. Zhivago. Because of the scenery and the history. There is a bit of a love story, but it's a slightly brutal one. The acting is fantastic. Omar Sharif, who's no longer with us, and Julie Christie, who still is, I believe. And I don't know who produced. If I did, I've forgotten. And can I have three choices?
Oh, well, please go ahead. Yes.
My second one is The Red Violin.
I love this movie.
And very tragic beginning and had me bawling my eyes out. It's very emotional.
Yeah.
But it also covers many countries, much history, and it moves really fast. And the music, along with Dutch Vargo, actually all three of my movies, the music is what carries the movies as well.
Wow.
So that's really important because it encompasses all our senses. So if a movie doesn't do that, it's not really a brilliant movie to me. And the third one is Out of Africa, which is extremely romantic and covers, again, fantastic scenery. It covers flying. dying, which is part of my family's history, but mostly the animals and the wilderness and the ability to start a business and not necessarily succeed, but have to deal with everything that goes with it. So much in it, and some, no, not much history, but a little bit. The first two are the best ones for me.
Janet, I have loved listening to you talk about movies. I mean, you just have this really genuine affection for them.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the call.
You're welcome.
And I love that point, too, about the role of music in telling the story, right? Does that ring true for you?
100%.
Yeah.
Actually, this year, they are really strong nominees. The Oppenheimer score by Ludwig Göransson is tremendous, and Robbie Richardson's last score was for Killing of the Flower Moon, which is extraordinary, and that will be my favorite. But although it's Göransson's to lose this Oscar.
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna have to say I feel like Barbie's got to get a big. Yeah. I mean, the music in Barbie was great. I think, you know, I remember when I saw it here in Vancouver at the Dunbar, and I remember walking out of that going, I really, my life will be complete if Ryan Gosling is on stage doing a musical dance number at the Oscars, because that was such a highlight for me. That all the music in that film was great.
It's true. Yes. Go ahead, Jorge.
Well, I'm sure Barbie's gonna win Best Song for the Billie Eilish.
Okay. Yeah.
Song.
Not I'm Just Ken? No?
Yes, no. But I'm Just Ken, though, I understand that Ryan Gosling will be on stage performing the song.
That's a big sigh. That's a big sigh.
I've been waiting for that day. Yeah.
We've had different versions of the song, like a Christmas version, but we'll take it. We're here for it. Yeah, that was so funny, the way he sang it, the delivery of all of it. Yeah, really fun. Brian is joining us now from Dawson Creek. Hi, Brian.
Hello.
Hi, what's your favorite Oscar movie?
Well, I'd have to say it's one that was almost 50 years ago, but it was one of the first Oscar movies that I ever went to see because it was an Oscar winner. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure the exact year. Maybe your hosts or guests know that, but because it was probably not a movie I would have seen. It didn't have action or stuff, but when I did go and see it because of an Oscar winner, it was a great movie. Didn't have to have all the special effects.
Yeah,
just a
the acting.
Wonderful story. Yeah.
It just...
and I think even a young Danny DeVito and several other actors first started. And, of course, Jack Nicholson was wonderful. And Ellen Burstyn as the nurse.
1975 was when that movie came out. But you're right. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I know it. I mean, it's one of those iconic movies, right?
Yeah,
Brian,
one of the Oscar greats.
One of the Oscar greats. Thank you so much for the call. And I love that you saw that it won, and so you went out to the theaters. So perhaps that's something that may happen for people as well. Jennifer is joining us now from Revelstoke. Let's head to the southeast. Hello there, Jennifer.
Oh, hi. I'm surprised I got on so fast.
Well, thank you very much for calling. And what movie did you want to talk about as your favorite Oscar winner of all time?
Well, it was... what I'm doing is, as soon as you said it, Schindler's List came into my mind. And that's 1994. And I was still pretty young and naive then. And what it taught me about some realities and what I learned about the harshness of it and the wonderful character. Of course, I had the hots for Liam Neeson at the time, and I didn't realize until later that it was Ray Fiennes playing the guy in the
one of the officers, I think.
Yeah. He's famous. Anyway.
No, absolutely.
It was so moving, and the fact that this guy was an entrepreneur who said, "This is what I'm going to do," and was, I guess you could say, a freewheeler. You know, the way he
went against the grain. Yeah.
He went in for business and said, "This is what I can do for you to help you build." When you know, they made clothes, I believe, in the movie. But anyway,
it really stayed with you, huh? Yeah, it's a very powerful movie. Incredible.
Well, the last scene. Oh, just never mind.
Yeah.
Well, the last scene of him, yeah, never mind.
Jennifer, I hear you loud and clear. I was a high school student when I went to see that with my class, and it really stayed with me. And we had to write about it afterwards. And you're right, you learn so much from watching Schindler's List, and for people who were a bit younger, perhaps exposed to what they were not as exposed to before when it comes to history. Janet is up next now in Nanaimo. Hi, Janet. What's your favorite Oscar movie all the time?
Yes, thank you very kindly. My most favorite movie, in fact, I still look back on it this day and think there were no two better people suited for these roles, were Robert Redford and Barbara Streisand in The Way We Were.
Oh, yes.
I can't tell you, that Sidney Pollack is a beautiful director. I'm sad to know that he no longer is here with us. But on the other hand, there isn't a day that doesn't go by. Even when I have words with my own husband, and I'll often say, "Damn you, Hubble, you were so rotten towards Katie. You didn't know what you had until it was too late." But it's a movie that, in my opinion, will go down in history. My only regret is that I kind of wish that there had been a second chapter, because when they parted the way they did, and she was still doing what she felt was best, you often wonder, would they ever come back together? But again, it was just, to me, it holds a lot of good memories.
Oh.
And again, if anyone else out there can relate to Katie and Hubble, God bless you all.
Janet, thank you so much. I'm going to look for a quote I can use in my household too. I have just about a couple minutes left, but I mean, what you're hearing is this real passion for movies, Rachel.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
I completely relate to that. Many movies flit through my mind on the daily basis.
Yeah. And many famous lines, I'm sure. And what about for you, Jorge? I mean, just hearing how enthusiastic people are, right? And going back and digging deep for those, not just the movies themselves, but memories that go along with them.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, people really hate asking me what's my favorite movie, because really, give me decades, give me genre.
That's right.
Give me some more parameters, because I have too many. Briefly for your listener, a scene with a resolution for The Way We Were was shot, but was scrapped because the director decided it was much better to leave an open ending.
Wow. Oh, look at that. So there's a little fun fact for you, and you can just determine, you can imagine what that ending was. And I think you had a good one in mind there. So thank you very much for the call. What a pleasure to speak with both of you. I hope you enjoy the Oscars. I know you have something going on at the Rio.
We sure do.
Yeah.
We have our annual Oscar party, and there's still a few tickets left.
There you go. And Jorge, wonderful to have you as well. Enjoy Sunday.
Oh, thanks so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
My thanks to Rachel Fox, who's senior programmer at the Rio Theatre, and Jorge Castillo with the Vancouver Film Critics Circle. That is it for our show. Thank you so much to all of our callers. What a joy to hear you today. And thanks to our team here on the show: Alan Regan, Rachel Adams, Melody Jacobson, Stephanie Biella, George Baker, Allison Cole, Greg Kisser, Mark Fairfield, Eric Pankratz, Amber Parmar, Jill Constantine, Ray Farnott, Megan Zwick, and David Jones. I'm Michelle Elliott. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk Monday.